Be afraid, be very afraid. Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to scare you into voting for them. Will it work? Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel. George Floyd, the man who changed the world, is being buried in Houston today. And meanwhile, the Minneapolis City Council, which has banned chokeholds and is talking about dismantling their police department. New York City banning chokeholds. Floyd was born in 1973, grew up in Houston. And of course, the police officer in Minneapolis, in 8 minutes and 46 seconds, succeeded in murdering him. But following the lead of Donald Trump, now, it's increasingly apparent that the principal Republican electoral strategy this year is going to be to try to frighten white people about threats that black people are coming to get them. It's like Roger Stone is still advising Trump, and this is still 1968, or still advising Trump the way he was advising Nixon back in 68. I talked about this briefly yesterday about Klamath Falls, Oregon, where 200 locals showed up downtown with guns and baseball bats and axes and hammers and things to hold off the busloads of black Antifa marauders who Jewish billionaire George Soros was sending to get them. And, of course, George had done no such thing. I mean, this is literally happening from coast to coast. And people showing up, white people showing up with guns, rifles, hammers. It's extraordinary. And we don't know who's posting this stuff. It's on these neighborhood websites, and it's on Facebook, on these local small towns for Facebook all over the country. Is this, Boogaloo Boys trying to do a dress rehearsal for a second Civil War? Are they trying to figure out how far they can push things in America? Or is this coming from, some foreign country that wants to tear America apart? Or is it coming out of some secret intel unit in the basement of the White House? Nobody knows, but they did work. In Falls, Washington, a little town in Washington State, they cut down trees over the road into town so that those people couldn't get into town. In Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, the local neighborhood internet group said, look out, black people are, quote, organizing a riot and loot. South Bend, Indiana, their police shut down it didn't shut down their 9/11, but nearly browned it out with white people calling, going, when are those Antifa buses arriving? From Danville, California to Jacksonville, Florida, we're seeing these stories as documented by NBC News. It was all over the country. And one of the things that the reporters who were following up on this discovered was that these white people didn't realize that they'd been punked. They were like, oh, yeah, we showed up with our guns and those Antifa people kept away. And in many of these cities, many of these small towns across America, they're vowing to show up every night with their guns and their hammers and their axes to keep away those nasty Antifa people who are being paid for by George Soros. And then Tucker Carlson comes out about this last night. It's so weird because it's all over the news today. Louise and I last night we're getting ready to go to bed. We had watched, some drama on TV to kind of cleanse our palate after watching the news. And I thought, let's just check out the news. And we looked at MSNBC and CNN, and they were both sort of the same old stuff we already knew. So we flipped over to Fox, and here's Tucker Carlson going on this rant. It was a full 25 minutes. He says, this may be a lot of things, this moment we're living through, but it's definitely not Black lives. Remember that when they come for you, and at this rate they will. While Tucker never said who they were, who are going to come for you, or if they were black people being sent by George Soros. Soros has appeared probably thousands of times, maybe tens of thousands of times on Fox News, and certainly he's a regular on right-wing hate radio and on anti-Semitic and racist and Republican websites and Facebook groups as the boogeyman. Here's a message to white people across America. Nobody's coming to get you. There are people whose skin is darker than yours who are getting tired of being discriminated against, beaten, harassed, and frequently even murdered by people who look like you and me. And by and large, their response has been to ask us to stop. Stop the violence. Stop the harassment. You know, Bill Barr, Donald Trump, right-wing groups like Freedom Works, they're doing everything they can to stoke white fear and sometimes even hate, while black people are simply asking to be treated like the human beings that they are. Now, this electoral strategy of frightening white people about, black people coming to get them, it worked really well for Richard Nixon in 1968. He called it his Southern strategy, and it tied right in with his war on drugs. And it worked really well for George Herbert Walker Bush when Lee Atwater put together his Willie Horton ads in 1992. Put both these guys in the White House. But back in 68 and even by 1992, pretty much the only black faces you saw on TV were either bad guys in cop shows or buffoons in situation comedies. Many white people who had no contact in their day-to-day lives with black people at all, even growing up, many white people just believed those stereotypes to be true, or didn't even think about it, didn't question it. It just became imprinted. And those are the same white people today, those older white people, who make up the bulk of the Fox News and the right-wing hate radio audience. But the media today is more diverse. And we have a younger generation that's grown up knowing that we are all people, regardless of our race, and that we all live in this life together. We all want the same things, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we all live together in this country. White America is slowly changing, awakening, and realizing that black people want the same thing white people do, just to live our lives in peace and have a good, successful life. And no matter how many freaky anti-Antifa tweets Trump tweets out, or press conferences the Attorney General holds blaming anti-fascists and black people for America's problems, this isn't 68 or 92. Hopefully this won't work. After more than 240 years, it looks to me like we are witnessing the birth pains of a transition into a newer and better America. And of course, Trump and his buddies over at Fox News and One America News and all these other right-wing sites, they are doing everything they can to hold that back. History is going to record whether the final voice on all this is that of the hate mongers like Tucker Carlson or the simple demand of Reverend Al Sharpton, who gave the eulogy at George Floyd's memorial. Sharpton said, "What happened to George Floyd happens everywhere. It's time to stand up and say, get your knee off our necks." Frankly, it's damn well about time. And now Judd Legum is reporting over at popular.info that Republican members of Congress are using this script. Paul Brown, a Georgia congressional candidate, running a Facebook ad urging people to use their Liberty machines to take care of those looting hordes from Atlanta. That would be the black people from Atlanta, of course, and the Liberty machines would be your AK-47s. Georgia congressional candidate Marjorie Taylor Greene in an ad cocks a semi-automatic rifle and says, "This is a message to Antifa terrorists. Stay the hell out of Northwest Georgia." You've got companies selling T-shirts, "Everybody Looty until the roof starts to shooty."